don't know where the missing. Oh, well. Missing gavel this evening, but I'll be happy to call this meeting to order. It is 6:01 p.m. Mr. Hayes was hiding it. Where are you?
It was right here, I don't know.
We're going to call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the roll call. Ms. Kittrell, if you would do us honors, please.
Vice Mayor Love. Here. Councilman Carter.
Present.
Councilman Fan.
Here.
Councilman Fennell.
Here.
Councilwoman George. Here. Councilman Hayes. And Councilman Juvance. Mayor, we have a full house tonight.
Thank you so much. This evening, you have the minutes from the July 25th, 2023 Council Committee meeting for your consideration.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman George, second by Councilman Hayes. Any additions or corrections requested? Seeing none, all in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Minutes are unanimously approved. We'll now move to public recognition. This is a work session, committee meeting, so all of our public comment this evening will be at the beginning of the meeting. Therefore, you are welcome to come to the podium and speak about anything that is on the agenda or anything that's not on the agenda. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. What's wrong? He did the same thing. Oh, y'all breaking things? Is that the deal?
The computers are messed up. Oh, my.
Well, you'll have 5 minutes to speak. We ask that you introduce yourself, give us your address, please. Mr. Reyners, you may begin.
Good afternoon, it's Patrick Reyners, 317 Malone Drive, and I want to thank everybody, and especially the city, for giving me 5 minutes to come up here and speak. And I would hope the city wouldn't want to take that away from us if people are lying and doing things that the city might think that the 5 minutes isn't beneficial. That we should use this 5 minutes to, if not bring up an issue that we've already discussed with city people, so we don't tie people up with the city council that a previous person that works for the city that gets paid to help us could do versus bug this whole council. They got a lot of stuff on their plate. You guys don't, you? So another thing is convenience. You know, sometimes we like convenience. We pay a lot more for things from convenience just by companies knowing that we're willing to spend an extra $5 because we don't want to wait 30 minutes. And it's another thing when we use convenience, when it's convenient. Like, for example, you know, we don't talk about the 6 animals that are extinct in Tennessee because of human intervention, which we all are part of, or we don't talk about the products that we use every day that harm individuals because it's convenient to blame somebody else for the same things that we do sometimes. It takes the weight off the person, but I want to let everybody know that, yes, it does hit my heart every day that we hurt animals. We do. No way around it. But to pick and choose when it's important and when it's not important is not fair. I definitely probably wouldn't listen to anybody. I think that people up here talking about something that's, you know, surmisable or, you know, logical, for example, is to be heard. So I would hope everyone would listen to me and just know that if you've cut down on bread and cookies, you'll be saving orangutans because of all the palm oil that they use. It affects orangutans. So just know that we can't, for our convenience, ignore what we do. And sometimes people use that to get it out, like serial liars. They'll kind of look away to soothe themselves. But for me, the way I look at it, we have a chance to change the city, and there's more positive things to come up with from a negative thing than any of the negative things that can be occurred by it. For example, if you had a bad day at work, you might meet someone who's new, you might grunt, and they might feel the same way. You can't turn anything down, but you should always ask questions. If you don't know the answer to something and you really want to know, you should ask questions. You should never assume. So, for example, if people thought that I had an order of protection, they should look at the record and see that there was a motion to recuse a judge that never went answered. And in between, when you motion in Tennessee to recuse a judge, anything in between that motion is ill and void. So,
Excuse me, what's your issue?
What is that to do with city business?
up in Sumner County. So just so you guys know, in Sumner County, if you do file a motion to recuse a judge, anything they do in between their answering that motion in writing is null and void. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Sometimes I have trouble figuring out what a lot has to do with a lot, so. I appreciate your attention to it.
Renee Saunders, 2092 Rodman Boulevard, Gallatin, and I just want to say I would love to be able to come up here and complain about living in Gallatin, but I can't. And I think that we have you to thank for that, as well as these wonderful people here. Chief Bandy, I don't know any of your officers personally, and I'm super excited about that. And I'm pretty sure the reason I don't know them personally is because of the way that I live, but I do appreciate the work that your officers must be doing in our community to keep us safe, because I don't have any issues regarding safety. I also wanted to say, Ms. Brown, or Mayor Brown, I saw your newsletter in email form, and it was wonderful. And thank you very much for whoever is responsible for the email communications. Thank you so much. I may not make it out to a lot of the activities here, but it is wonderful to know that there are things in our community that information is being disseminated accurately and effectively. And I just want to say thanks to the groundskeeper at Long Hollow Golf Course, whoever that is. Is that you? It's awesome. Okay.
Under Mr.
So
Brown.
I retired in May and am able now to avail myself of the golf course on Wednesdays, if not more. But it's in great shape. And everybody is so super nice over there, and I really appreciate that. And again, thank you to all for your service. We really, well, I do. I'm sure there are lots of other people who appreciate the job that you're doing and understand how difficult it must be. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That's so kind of you. And I think everyone sitting up here would say, especially thank you for recognizing the folks at the table, because we would all defer accolades to the department heads and certainly the employees of the city, but you were kind to recognize them. Anyone else wishing to speak under public recognition this evening? Now's your time. All right. Seeing no one, we'll declare public recognition closed. We'll move on to mayor's comments. I do have just some events to share with you. First, I do want to tell you that we talked about in the department head meeting, because Rogers Group has just gotten rain about every Saturday that they have tried to pave up here. We are actually going to allow them to pave this Friday morning. They're going to start at daylight and hopefully will be done 10 at the latest. Richard's saying 9, but I'm saying 10 just to be safe. And the department heads are going to work with their employees to figure out how many people could come in late and work either remotely or work late and keep that parking lot as clear as we possibly can. But you might want to spread the word for those early hour folks, because it will impact some, certainly, with that parking taken up. The part that's already paved will still be available, but the part that's not will not. But it's going to get done, so that's good news. American Red Cross Blood Drive happening at the Civic Center. That's happening on the 10th. Also on the 14th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. The fly-in breakfast is at the Music City Executive Airport this weekend. That's 8 to 10. Market day at the Gallatin Farmers Market. You know, those summer vegetable days are winding down. It happens to from 9 until 1. That afternoon, the Antique and Classic Cars show at the Gallatin Civic Center, 4 to 8 p.m. There's a Silver Sneakers Luncheon coming up at the Gallatin Civic Center. All seniors in our population here are welcome to attend. That happens at 12:15 p.m. on the 17th. Also on the 17th, I've been looking forward to this all summer, is Third Thursday in Maine, and Chapel Hart is going to be the performer, or they're a group, but is the performer. So Chapel Hart's going to be performing at Third Thursday on Maine this month. That is on the 17th, 6:30 till 9. And then get ready, because on the 23rd is Mr. Fenton's birthday, and that is all I have this evening. Going to move on to the regular agenda, and item number 1 on the agenda this evening is the presentation discussions of the finding of an annexation study for a 5.59 acre portion of a parcel located north and south of Peach Valley Road and west of Highway 109. Mr. McCord.
Yes, Bill McCord, City Planner. This next item we discussed briefly at our last committee meeting. The applicant had requested approval to submit a petition for annexation, and we follow up now with a report on the annexation study. So this property is what is known as a portion of the Kirkpatrick property There's quite a few other ones that we think are going to be coming in for a request for annexation. But this property is about 5.5 acres, and it's on the north and south side of Peach Valley Road. So the map that you have, okay. The map you have there in your package as well as on the screen shows this property is on the west side of Highway 109. The water plant is right here on the south side of the properties, and Peach Valley Road heads west from 109. So many of you may be familiar, it's properties on both the right and or left side of the road as you head up the hill on Peach Valley Road heading west. So the smaller one, just a little over an acre piece there on the south side of Peach Valley Road is adjacent to the water plant. There is a water line that extends from the plant, a trunk line that feeds essentially all the service area that extends northwest across the properties. So the western portion of the 4.5 acres on the north side of Peach Valley Road is part of properties that were used to excavate for fill material when they were building the new bridge about 8 years ago or 10 years ago, somewhere in that time frame. So that property it's kind of level down in here now that they've excavated it, so it could be developed as something other than the difficulty that they may have had with the steeper slopes. Now, there is a steep slope on the west side of the property, and then it's, as many of you know, that goes up this steep hill here. And this newer building here, I think it's a home garage type of thing, that property is not in the city. It's in this part of the larger enclave, which this now is within enclave. But the city surrounds it on the east side, the north side, and then wraps around to the west side. So it is a smaller enclave, and this would be reducing the size of that enclave. So the character area map indicates this would be general urban. So we assessed or did our assessment for purposes of determining how much potential tax generation would occur based on it being developed for commercial purposes. There would be some limitations, of course, because of the utility line that extends through the property. So that portion of the property they couldn't build a structure on. They might be able to put a parking lot or some accessory things of that sort, but not any structures near that power, it's not power lines, utility lines. So we projected, based on other more recent development in the South Water Corridor, that if it were to develop commercially, it would generate about $25,000 per year in tax revenue. About $6,000 of that would be from city revenues, and the remainder would be tax revenue that the county would be getting if it were developed in a commercial manner. So we don't know exactly what might end up happening here. It's possible it could be developed even residentially. Not likely, but a possibility, and we would have to make adjustments to our projections of what tax revenue would be when we have a specific development plan. Of course, we don't now consider zoning until the annexation process is done anyhow. So just want to be able to report on that. And so as indicated in the report, there is a draft plan of service that we've provided, and city utilities are available, obviously. Water and sewer certainly are, as well as electric utilities adjacent to the properties. Answer questions if I have any.
So what is the next step, Ms. Macaulay, with this? Do we just consider the presentation? Do we have to approve it in any way, or?
We typically have a resolution that we would approve, and then it would go to Planning Commission.
This process is still different.
Remember, we're just allowing them to file an application. This is still the
So we have to have a
initial
resolution
process.
to allow them to.
Yes, Mr. McCord, I'm sure, has that prepared for if y'all decide to.
Do we, in other words, do we have to have a motion to send it on to council?
Well, he needs to know tonight what your inclination is, yes.
I'm not asking for a vote necessarily, just acceptance of the report would be sufficient this time, then we would move forward.
Well, but to keep it from having to come back to a work session with a resolution, it sounds like they should vote to, if they so desire, to have a resolution on the next work session to consider what, I'm sorry, the process remains convoluted in my brain. It just is
Yes.
not.
Well,
I think it's difficult for
It's-
all of us, but we're
it's a new
following
process.
state law. We know.
Yes.
Yes.
what we will do in our future reports is outline that process so that it's kind of a reminder to each of the board members.
But I think
because it
at
is
this
kinda
point, the
convoluted.
next step is a resolution to be approved by this body, and so we need to take action to move it in that direction.
I make a motion that we move to a resolution.
I have a motion by Councilwoman George, a second by Councilman Fan. Now opening the floor for discussion or any questions.
This was up last week, the last committee meeting, is that true?
Well, before we discussed the opportunity to apply, and so within that process, then comes the annexation study. That's what this part is. And so I thought we'd already done a resolution to allow them to apply, but it's sounding like we have not, so.
That's what I had thought, so I'm confused on it too, but I.
You have not voted on a resolution to allow them to apply. That has come, you said yes, now let's do the study, and then the next step would be you approve or disapprove a resolution to send it to the Planning Commission to allow them to take it up for consideration. You allow them basically to submit an application.
And that last time that we had talked about that was on July the 25th, the committee meeting, and that vote was 5-1 to allow us to prepare this feasibility study. So we'll bring that resolution that was in a draft form 2 weeks ago back to you for consideration.
Is there any thoughts on what is they're thinking about putting on this property yet?
We haven't heard anything definite. I know that our utilities department has been in discussion with the property owner about acquiring that portion, at least on the south side of Beach Valley Road, the one in a little over 1 acre piece that's adjacent to the water plant. So,
Now, we removed the word blight from that area, but I hope planning keeps in mind that we want it to be improved along that corridor.
That's our gateway to the city, kind of, so I think we need to be real
Right.
cautious of what we allow in that area.
Currently, it's a quarry site, so I would think it's going to be very difficult for whatever, but it's interesting. It will be interesting to see what the proposal is.
What a treatment center's there.
Questions, y'all, or anything for Mr. McCord? Discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on it. All in favor of moving it forward to council for a vote on the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no.
No.
Passes 6-1. So item number 7, I'm sorry, gosh, where'd that come from? Actually, while he's getting his next stack of papers, let me tell you all, because I don't want to wait till the end of the meeting, because if people are watching, they may have tuned out, and you in the audience may have left. But Mr. Brown sent me a reminder that the LPGA Amateur Championship competition is happening at Long Hollow Golf Course on the 12th. On the 12th of August, so that's this Saturday at 8 o'clock. That's pretty cool. So that's exciting. So that will be going on Saturday at Long Hollow Golf Course. It's the Ladies Professional Golf Association, the Amateur Championship. So I should have defined LPGA, I'm sorry. So item 2 is the resolution R2308-64, adopting the plan of service for the annexation of a 19.56 acre portion of 2 parcels. That would be tax map 113G Group D and parcel parcel 024.04 and tax map 113G Group A, parcel 001.00, located south of West Albert Gallatin Avenue and west of Scott Drive, and a .77 acre portion of West Albert Gallatin Avenue right-of-way. Mr. McCord.
okay, we have talked about this one before, of course, and so now we have a resolution for annexation and a resolution for plan of service, and I'm going to present these together because they involve the same piece of property. You may have seen this before, but this is the area outlined in yellow on the map is the area that is subject to annexation. The city is the applicant on behalf of the owner. Apparently, for I don't know how many years, the property, the balance of the property, which I'll show you there, that's not shown in the striped pattern is already in the city and has been in the city since 1965, and apparently they have been assessed for taxes on all of the property, city taxes, that is. So as recommended by, I think, our legal staff, is that we would represent this item as the applicant on behalf of the owner. So the 19 acres is that strip that is shown in the striped pattern there. And just to describe what this map shows, it shows the floodplain. So almost all of this property is in a floodplain and will be, it can be developed, but most likely it will be used for non-structural activities associated with this property eventually develops. It's used as a farm now, and there is a house on the northern corner. Let's see if I can, right up in the northern corner at the end of Hatton Track Road. This also includes a very small strip of Albert Gallatin Avenue, which the city had acquired and of course is constructed now. This is another map of the area which shows the floodplain a little more succinctly, as well as the floodway. So again, almost all of this property has some environmental issues that would restrict certain things from being constructed. And here's what it looks like on our map of the city limit and zoning. So you can see this little gap in here between the creek, the East Camp Creek, and the remainder of the city, which is shown inside the dotted black line. So all the orange colors and the red colors that are surrounding it are properties that are already located in the city. The Planning Commission did review this last month and recommended by a vote of 7-0 to recommend annexation. Approval of the resolutions.
Motion to send 2 and 3 on to council.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Carter, opening the floor for questions or discussion.
Is this part of Roger Hollins goes into the
It is,
nursery?
it is, and he said, Mr. McCord said on behalf of the owner, but I want to be clear, the owner is aware and wants this as well,
Okay.
so.
The owner, the owner's representative contacted my office when they discovered that they've been paying taxes since the 60s or 70s, and it wasn't actually annexed into the city. They thought that it had been, and they were not aware at the time that it had not been properly annexed in. And what happened is the way that back then when they annexed in, they didn't do it on property lines, they did it just by a straight line, and that's what happened.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And
Anyone else?
so that was a motion for both those resolutions is, okay. Gotcha.
All right. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I still think we're not in compliance with previous plan of services. Emergency services, again, nothing fault to the PD they're trying out, but we're still not where we're supposed to be, so I can't vote yes on any annexation. So I just want to give you my point.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, all in favor of moving items 2 and 3 on to council for consideration, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no.
No.
Passes 6-1. Item number 4 is ordinance 02308-44. And this is a request to waive the land disturbance fees and surety requirements for the Music City Executive Airport. And presenting on behalf of engineering is Lance Wagner.
Good evening, council. Everyone's kind of aware of the work going on at the airport. There's some hangar additions and some runway additions. The airport is property owned by the county, and on other county projects, we have done a similar thing of waiving fees and surety. So they requested the same thing, so we bring it in front of you to see if you agree.
Motion to send on.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Fennell, second by Councilman Juvance. This is also, the work is being done by an FAA grant, so that makes me feel very confident that it will be done appropriately. And I think Mr. Harris is here too. He was the one that submitted the request, so thank you, and I think it's a good thing to do for the airport. So, motion and second, any further questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Moves along to the council meeting. Item number 5 is ordinance 02308-45, vacating right-of-way of a .19 acre segment of Freedom Church Road located south of Grandstand Boulevard and west of Greenlee Boulevard. Mr. Wagner.
Yes. Trying to frame this correctly. But the right-of-way that we are, in my mind, kind of swapping out Grandstand Boulevard, that development dedicated right-of-way. By this right-of-way being dedicated and this one entrance being taken away, we're able to get roadway spacings correct and more in line with our future plans. This happened a long time ago with the development of Grandstand Boulevard. So this is just kind of cleaning up this right-of-way as it is right now.
Motion to send council.
Motion by Councilman Juvance,
Second.
second by Councilman Carter, opening the floor for discussion.
This is that piece of land near when you get on 386 area from Freedom Church that there was something that was going to happen there, and by the way, the entrances was changed, we're giving it back to the church. That's what this is? Okay, I remember it now. Okay.
That was their original entrance,
Okay.
so they redid the road.
Acquired, and then another piece was acquired, and now we're swapping them.
Now we're swapping, kind of giving back. We asked them, through the development process, they were asked to take out that entrance, and they complied and connected into the Grandstand Boulevard. So this is just kind of swapping and cleaning it back up.
Anyone else? Okay, this is, this is for ordinance 02308-45. All in favor of sending on to council, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Does move along unanimously. Item 6 is Resolution R2308-66, Chief Bandy authorizing the Gallatin Police Department to accept the State Violent Crime Intervention Grant.
Yeah, Chief Bandy, Don Bandy, Gallatin Police. This is just to ask your permission if we can accept this grant. It's going to help us purchase some vehicles and also some surveillance equipment, if you will.
And what
Motion
kind of
to send.
Surveillance equipment, if you will.
surveillance equipment? Okay. Motion by Councilman Juvant, second by Councilman Carter. Any discussion? Yay? All in favor? I mean, yay for y'all. I wasn't saying yay, no discussion. Yeah, yay for GPD. All in favor of sending it on to council, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. It does move along unanimously. Item number 7 is authorizing the police department, it's Resolution R2308-67, to accept the State Law Enforcement Basic Training Cost Sharing Grant.
Yes, pretty much that's it. We're asking your permission to accept this grant, and again, it will be very
Motion
helpful.
to send it on.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman George, second by Vice Mayor Love. Questions?
Chief, is that the grant where they're going to pay us part of the training for new officers?
It will pay for the tuition of the officers, yes, sir.
All right, this is Resolution R2308-67. All in favor of sending it on, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Does pass unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 8 is Resolution R2308-69. And this is authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with Samsara for its telematics hardware, services, and accessories to provide GPS, vehicle location and tracking, asset management, and integrated video. This may sound familiar. It is a different company. We should say thank you to Mr. Boyd. And we did this.
A couple of weeks ago, you saw something very similar for a Verizon contract, but at that time, we were asked to look for a couple more vendors that might have something similar but better pricing, and we have. We found Samsara. They're on the state contract, and the savings over the Verizon contract is substantial, and based on references from other communities, probably a better product as well.
Motion to send on.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Carter. Right. who'd I say? Hayes. No, I had you in my head the whole time. I'm sorry.
Paying attention.
Councilman Fennell, Councilman Carter, any discussion, any questions?
I'm all for this.
I think it's a great thing, and I really do approve. He is here, I think. Mr. Boyd, appreciate you.
And
He's looked out for us before.
may I add also that this is actually who our insurance carrier had recommended. And we initially, when we were researching, were not able to reach out, I guess, to the right people. And then we got some really good reviews on them. So I think this is going to be much better. We did pass the one resolution, I think maybe someone from Verizon, I'm not sure who contacted finance, but they're not happy because they think that they got the contract when all we were doing was authorizing you to sign, but we could repeal that.
I did not sign it.
And we did not sign anything. We just authorized, and you said that night you would not sign because we were still researching. But we might want to repeal that resolution next week also.
Shall we do that in good measure?
I think so. That would be my recommendation.
Mr. Jones?
Thank you, ma'am. Rachel, idea of the price?
Again, it's dependent on how many units take the camera version and how many units take just the GPS version of the product. We're looking at a per unit price of $13.80 for just GPS and $15.60 per month with the camera option. The pricing that Verizon had given us was $2 more on the GPS only and $4 more on the camera unit.
Thank you, Rachel.
So if this body is willing, I think a motion to repeal the previous resolution would be appropriate.
But we need to do that. We need to do that at a voting meeting.
I'm saying, could they vote to have that on the council meeting next?
Well, we probably should vote on this one first.
Oh, I thought we did.
We had a motion and a
Had a
second.
motion.
Okay, I'm sorry. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion about Simsara? Okay, all in favor of sending that to council, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. And then if you wish to consider the other, I would entertain that
Make a
motion.
motion that we nullify and void the previous contract that was discussed.
Resolution. Repeal the resolution.
We have to send it to, shouldn't the motion be to send it to council for the vote?
Yeah, so just add those words and send to vote at the next
Exactly what I was
council.
going to say.
Your mind.
Councilman Fennell,
Second on that.
has made a motion to send to council next week a resolution repealing a resolution. Is that how we do it? A resolution repealing a resolution, seconded by Councilman Carter. Any questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It is unanimously passed. Item 9 is ordinance 02307-43, amending Article 2, Section 1 of the City of Gallatin, Tennessee Charter as established in Chapter 67 of the Private Acts of 1953 and is amended thereafter to add the power to levy impact fees on new developments. Mr. Givons.
Thank you, Mayor. You want me to read it again, or
What?
you want me to read it again, or?
No, you don't, I mean,
It was emailed to you.
I didn't get an email.
You did.
I'm sorry.
They're saying they didn't have it on their agenda. It got emailed out on
oh, it
Friday.
was emailed late. Sorry, y'all.
I've had so many emails, I apologize, trying to catch up.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Yes, it was a late edition.
No, I would like to suspend the rule to bring Mr. Goodall to talk about it. if you're
Motion by
okay with it.
Mr. Givons to suspend the rules and allow Mr. Goodall to come speak.
Absolutely.
Second by Councilman Carter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Goodall, would you like to come to the podium? Share your wealth of knowledge.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thanks. Thank you for coming. Like I told the last council, we had a good, fun conversation, you and me, because I like to get all the opinions. I still think we need to do it after our conversation, but I remember a few things you told me during that conversation. Is that the first thing is that developers don't like to add more fees. to the project. That was the first one. The second one, you told me you dealing with impact fees with project already, and there is alternative ways to deal with them. But the most important, I think, I remember that you said that we need to do what's best for our community. So again, we had a great conversation and you offered to come talk to us. So it's all yours.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to come up here and speak to y'all. It's like coming back home, coming up here and being part of the city council, and haven't done it lately, but I do enjoy being up here and sharing my wealth of knowledge of many years of building and development. And, I had to think about impact fees a little bit because we've had the opportunity to build in a number of communities that have lots of different types of impact fees. And the truth be known, if you decide to do an impact fee, and if Pascal was talking around the $750, truth be known, the buyer would pay it. And that would be money that you could use for certain things for the city. But there's other aspects of it that I want to talk about a little bit. One is we're kind of in unprecedented times. What's happened over the past 2 or 3 years, we've seen the customer take massive price increases, massive interest rate increases, and they're still buying for now. Part of that is inventory. The inventory is very, very, very low. A lot of that's caused by buyers and homeowners that have very low interest rates, 3-4% over the past few years, and they're just not going to move. They're not going to put their house on the market. It's not going to give new inventory to the market. So you have buyers continuing to come in. They've got to have a house somewhere, somehow, and they're still paying the prices. There is an end point to that. One thing that we've seen over the past year is we took our typical house and we looked at the price increases that we've had to absorb over the past year, and we've looked at interest rate increases that buyers had to pay. And so from last year to this year, about the same time, a buyer is paying about $1,100 more per month than they would have been paying a year ago. And that's after 2 years of these crazy increases that that we're having to pass on to the customers. So I worry about what's the point that somebody who's serving the community, a policeman, a fireman, nurse, teachers, I worry there's a point that they just can't afford a home. When I first started building, and even 30 years ago, about 35% of the homes that were built were for first-time home buyers. Now that number's single digits. It's maybe 7 or 8%. And so we've priced out first-time home buyers, but then that affects a whole lot of other folks too. So I do worry about, our kids, our grandkids, the future generations. How are they going to, fulfill their dream of owning a home with the prices they're having to pay? So impact fees do go into part of that. We do see in some communities where impact fees are very specific to a certain thing. And from a buyer's standpoint, if we can tell a buyer, hey, you're paying an extra $750 for a specific thing that they can feel good about, that makes it a little bit easier. But it's still tough to tell that buyer, you're having to pay $750 extra when you go to another community and you may not have to pay that. Impact fees, most of the ones that we see are mostly educational based. They're mostly county driven. And again, we see some counties doing a better job of managing their money and taking those impact fees and building facilities. And then we see other counties that maybe not doing as well with managing that money either. So at the end of the day, impact fees, we see them in a lot of communities. If I had a magic wand and and we needed the money for whatever it was, I'd much rather see it broad-based, where everybody in the community pays for X, or everybody in the community pays for Y, or everybody that bought a home, whether it was a new home or an existing home, they paid the particular fee. It's kind of hard thinking about, like when you're picking on just new construction, what does that do? Well, the new construction, they're out here providing jobs. They're providing new housing stock for the community. The developers putting in roads and sidewalks and utilities and off-site utilities that the developer turns over to the city. So it is, in a lot of ways, impact fees can be a little bit unfair. And if, when y'all look at new revenue sources, if you can figure out how to, make it where it's a broad base and more of a fair tax, that feels a lot better. And two, the other thing is, you only have a certain amount of land, you only have a certain amount of people that are going to buy a new home. If it's just on new construction, that can go away. You can be dependent on that money coming in for a while, but we've seen through recessions and things of that nature where new construction kind of comes to a slower pace or a halt, and then you don't have that fee coming in any longer. So those are just a few thoughts. I'll be glad to answer whatever questions y'all might have for us.
So you think we're in need of affordable housing more here in Gallatin?
Oh, absolutely.
And how will we get to that point?
From a city council, y'all's hands are tied to a certain amount. The one thing I see you can do is density. We need density, and developers and builders. When you go out and if you require, for example, a developer to be restricted to a half-acre lot as opposed to a fourth-acre lot, our resource in this city is land, and it's not going to last forever. And so if you require developers and builders to use all that land up on larger parcels, it's going to leave that much quicker. I think
It also
about
doesn't,
me as
I don't mean to interrupt you, but in that case too, with the construction costs and everything, it makes the homes less affordable when they are on a larger lot because the price of land in today's market, which would only get higher, and that,
It does. I think the other thing too, that if you think about a high density apartment building and how many units go on that piece of property, on the apartment building, it's private roads. The city's not going to have to maintain them. You've got infrastructure with utilities. The city's not going to have to maintain those. If you've got, on the adverse of that, if you've got a community and you're requiring large lots, what you're doing is you're spreading out every lot. You're having to pave more roads. You're having to take care of more sewer line, more water line. The police department's spread out. The fire department's more spread out. And so the problem with requiring low-density neighborhoods is that, like, it's this domino effect. It doesn't just affect, on the front end, but it affects years and years to come when the city comes to maintain it or service the folks that live there.
Mr. Gill, I have a question. I don't think it's really related. It's really related to affordable housing, not to impact fees so much. But do you have a sense as to how much investors are impacting our available inventory? Because I feel like when I look through the property sales, I won't name any of the companies, but I see the same companies all the time. And I know they're buying them and then turning around and renting them, which I realize that there's a need for people to rent houses, but it just seems like it could really be affecting our available inventory. And everybody in this room who owns a house has gotten umpteen things in the mail where somebody wants to buy your property for investment purposes.
Yeah. So we are seeing a lot of that. We're seeing it both on the existing construction, which they're doing it kind of onesie-twosies, and they may build up larger numbers. But then you also see it on the new construction side where you're having companies that actually come in and they're doing new single-family homes for rent. I think there's a need for that. It does, it does take away opportunity for a first-time home buyer to buy. And, if I'm in y'all's shoes, I probably would limit that to a certain degree on certain approvals. But I don't know, I don't step on anybody's toes with that, but there is probably, there's a place for it, but I think there's probably a limitation. Yeah.
Question, anybody else with questions for Mr.?
Yes, I have one. You said it was $750 for impact fees. And my understanding in Rutherford County, it's about $10,000 per home for a 1,500 square foot house. So I think we're kind of low end on the 750.
Yeah, I didn't, again, I don't know what number there is considering or been thrown around, but, I mean, like we build homes in Franklin, Tennessee, and before I start the house, I'm probably $45,000 or $50,000 into soft cost. And that's between the building permit, the county fees, the city fees. And, so everybody has kind of a different game plan. I will say, and I appreciate taking the opportunity now to say like how much of a blessing it is to be able to work inside the city of Gallatin and how great the leadership has been. And it just makes me proud to live here and be a part of the community. So thank y'all so much. I know it's a lot of long hours and you're not always getting compliments when people call. And
Amen.
So,
Oh, my goodness. How would you know that?
Thank y'all for what you're doing. It makes me proud to live here in the city of Gallatin. Be for me.
Thank you for the ways in which you've helped build this community.
Yes.
Thank you.
Seriously. Anyone else with any questions for him before?
I'd like to ask him one more if I can. Are you building high density in Franklin right now?
We do. We do. I have, I've got one neighborhood that we have townhomes, cottages, and single family, and then we're also building apartments in Franklin.
You still see that there's a need for your larger estate type homes here in Gallatin?
The market drives it. I think so many times, whether it's a developer or a builder or the city, like we just watch the market and watch what buyers want. So many times we get caught up in trying to think, well, we want it this way or that way. But the buyers, what I've seen is most of them, they don't want to mow a big lawn anymore.
Right.
They don't want to take care of a bunch of landscaping. They don't, they're happy with, beautiful home that it can be on a small lot. Now, there's always the exception that once, we have a farm in Westmoreland, and I love going in the middle of the farm. And, I love the acreage, but, everybody doesn't like working on the farm and driving a tractor either.
Long time ago, about 12, maybe 14 years ago, you made a statement, if we're not growing, we're dying. You still hold to that statement?
Yeah. Okay. I think, the other thing I was going to mention too, because I talk about high density a little bit, and the apartments that have been built in Gallatin over the past 2 or 3 years, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot for me. If I just take my developer hat off and I just put my resident on, it's a lot of new traffic. But what happened with COVID, like this is so unprecedented. What happened with all this construction, it wasn't bad planning. It wasn't bad leadership. It was just, we have been overwhelmed by this mass exodus from other states coming to Tennessee. And it won't always be that way. And what we've done and how we've grown, I feel good about it. As a citizen, I take my developer hat off. I feel very good about what we've done and how we've done it, and thank y'all for that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Schwanz?
Thank you, sir. You were just saying market-driven. Everything I see on the market now is identity. So how can we know if people want something else if what we just offer them is identity? There was one property for sale on the other side of Longolo Park where I live, who stayed overnight. I think it's just over 1 acre, sold high price and bought by someone who actually moved from high-density residential in Gallatin to that property. So I personally have a problem when I hear that's all what people want, because you don't want that. I live on 15 acres, and I don't see myself living in a city again. And I travel all year long. I spend half of my life traveling and go actually in cities. So I appreciate even more what we have, and we're lucky to have that property. And yeah, thanks to you, I'm here, because without you guys, I would not have been to a council and decided to run. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I have the problem that all I hear is we need high-density development to survive. I think we need both. We need big loads, and we need to preserve, a piece of what made Gallatin, and not just try to compact every piece of land with townhouses and stuff on top of each other. I think there is room for both, but all I hear is just we need identity to get affordability, but I don't see that. Because even identity, I don't see anything affordable right now. And that's come, again, from the price of the land, because I understand that you guys have to make money, and when you buy an acre under 20K, you still have to make a living out of it, so that drives the price up. And so where are we going with that?
It does. I mean, to me, when I think about all the decisions that are being made now, I think about what does this community look like in 50 years? And I think, it's got to be this mixture of, somebody that may want an acre lot, and that's their decision. And if they buy a piece of property and they decide to just build on it as an acre, you've got to respect that. We hear, and again, like I love seeing other parts of the country and what they've done. A friend of mine is a builder up in Seattle, and he was talking about they put density restrictions on them, and they're required to do 10 units per acre or larger. They will not allow them to do anything less than 10 units per acre. And the reason is that they woke up and saw their land is going away. It was being eaten up in these, maybe a half acre, 2 acre lot. And they saw that's the future of their city. That's the future of the residents. It's for grandkids and kids. So things like that, I think about that's in 50 years, every little parcel of land that we've got left, we're going to want to do, keep the city rejuvenated and continue to build, continue to develop, and we've got to have that land stock to do that. So again, I know where a lot of the growth issues, when you drive through town, like it used to take me 7 minutes to get to my office, and now it takes me 12. And, I don't like traffic. And so I have this emotion because of that. But when I hear people say, hey, we've got to slow growth, we don't need to slow growth. We don't need to control growth. We just need smart growth. And that's the thing, I think, that I've seen the city do that in a number of ways, and I appreciate that, but that's the thing we've got to keep doing, too.
Funny you mentioned Seattle, because I was there 72 hours ago, and I tell you, I don't want to live there for sure.
No. I like Gallatin. I think I'll stay here.
Mr. Goodall, do you have any statistics on what the cost? Let's just take a $400,000 house. How much is that absorbed into the labor?
I don't know. I could get some numbers for you. I'll be glad. I'll reach out to you and I'll get some.
I actually have somebody on another project working on me to get construction costs per square foot on different scenarios.
Yeah.
So I can get that for you.
And I'd also like to know, I don't know how we'll get this figure, but for instance, some of
Is your
the
mic on?
labor comes in from out of town.
Microphone.
And what it does for our economy. Did you get a question?
Yeah, it's a huge impact. I mean, it's, when you think about new construction and the trickle down that does, I mean, in so many different ways, but it's an enormous impact.
Sales tax would be one, right? On materials.
Yeah, we pay, so basically, when we build a home for a customer, we pay sales tax on all the products. We don't get any waiver of any sales tax. Now, they don't pay necessarily sales tax when they close on the home. They pay the transfer tax.
That's what I'm getting at, the materials are taxed.
Right.
Okay, thank y'all so much. Mr. Fenton waved his hand down there. I think he has some input he wants to
Okay,
offer as
appreciate
well.
it.
Thank you, Mr. Goodall, so much.
Good evening. I just wanted to interject into this conversation, impact fees regarding commercial and industrial construction. I think one thing we need to be careful of, particularly in this particular economic climate, is that impact fees, when you have a 200, 300,000 square foot building that's being talked about now, really would delay and possibly even cause them not to move forward. And those are the projects that are creating jobs for our community. So it would have a definite negative economic impact on our community. So I just ask that you keep that in mind as you move this forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to you.
Yeah, I make a motion to move to council. Again, like I said before, it's just to send it to state to get the charter of the city amended to give us the option to do that if we decide to. That's going to take a full year to get into state, so that leaves us plenty of time to figure things out if we want to move forward. But again, I don't think we should, it's becoming more and more common. Every cities I see around us think and talk about it. So that doesn't mean we're going to put impact fees right now. That means that we're going to send it to state to amend the charter so we have the option to levy, if that passes state, of course, the option to do something about it if we want to. So that only one step. And again, if they amend the charter and nobody wants to do it, that will stop there. But I think we should keep other options open, and that's how I think.
By Councilman Javance.
So he put that in a form of motion for impact fees. I'll give him a second on that, see where it goes. I don't mind trying something, and if it don't work, it don't work.
There's motion and a second. Any discussion or questions before you vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, so it passes, I believe, 5-2, with Ms. George and Ms. Love saying nay. Okay, 5-2. It will be on council meeting next week. That's going to conclude the regular agenda. It's going to bring us now to other business. I do have a couple of things, starting with the street closure. This is an easy one. This is for the Lions Club Bike Ride for Sight. It happens on Saturday, September 16th. They want to close the L of the square back behind the courthouse from 6 a.m. until 12 p.m. And that's their request. And all the signatures are here. And
Motion to approve.
Second.
motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Vice Mayor Love. Any questions, any discussion? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, unanimously approved. I know Ms. Nichols has an item to bring forward to you all as well.
Page 4, we adjourn. Can I say something? Okay.
I apologize that this wasn't in the packet. We didn't realize we'd run out of days. This is a request to authorize the City of Gallatin to apply for a State of Tennessee Tourism Enhancement Grant. The deadline to file is September 1st, and there's 5 Tuesdays in September, or in August, so we ran out of meeting days. This is a 50/50 grant. It will allow for improved tourism assets and increased tourism-related economic impact. The city's already met with Chamber of Commerce, discussing different options on how how these funds could potentially be used, and we're just requesting to apply for the grant.
How much,
Motion to move it forward.
I'll second with a question. How much is this grant are we going to apply for?
I believe there's a
100,000,
maximum of 200,000, so the city would,
pay 50, I mean, we pay 50%, 100,000.
and we can use our tourism dollars that we've accumulated over the years, the hotel motel tax, we can use that for the city match.
We still need to have a
Specifics on
conversation
how
about
we can
that.
use the money?
I'm sorry.
They tell us how we can use the
Well, it
money?
has to attract, well, it's articulated in the grant, and it's people that have to come from more than 50 miles, and they have to, I can't remember all the particulars, we talked through it the other day.
I don't have the specifics with me, I'm sorry, but yes, we have to draw from outside the area. It cannot be used for local residences.
How would they know if we were drawing outside the area or not? I mean, that would be our goal, I know, but
It would be things that would attract people to make a specific effort to come to Gallatin, and and there are those things that do that. We're thinking in terms of some kind of holiday effort, because that would help not only tourists, but our merchants. So that's what we're kind of working on at this point, but we're still discussing different ideas. I think I had a motion. Did you make a motion? Second? Yeah. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We will see that next week. We'll move it on to council. That does bring, it's actually a great segue for something I did want to talk to y'all about if we didn't go too late tonight, and it's not too late. But in talking, yes, sir?
Other business?
I'm sorry?
Other business.
That's what we're doing.
All right, I
Okay.
have something.
Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you go ahead if you want to. I was going to jump in because it was a good segue.
Oh, okay, good.
Go ahead.
I wanted an update on what we talked about. Susan, do you have time to look at the what was given to us by one of our citizens about the increasing speeding tickets value?
I have looked at that. I have not looked at it in depth, but I have researched that, and Latasha's helped me. We have discussed it with MTAS, and so what we would have to do, those cases, you lose the ability for them to come to city court, so they go to general sessions, and so all of the revenue would be lost by the city, would go to the state. And they also would lose the ability, because it is a mandatory fee. The judge could not sentence, they have to do that fee, and they cannot go to traffic court. So it's a mandatory, if you set it at a fee, whatever fee you determine to set it at, be at that fee, and there could be no traffic court. So you lose, city would lose some revenue, and they'll also lose the ability to go to traffic court.
Yeah, I also think it's not just, but I don't think the issue is just revenue, because I think we were also concerned about how that would impact, how we could not be viewed as discriminatory if we issued it in some instances but not in others. So we felt like we would have to do it across the board. And then what that does to our county judges and the general sessions docket is the real issue that they're experiencing in Clarksville, which was the impetus for this legislation. And so when we talked about it, we said we need to get them to increase the municipal fees, but that makes them go back and
That's
have to
the
change.
Constitution.
That's the Constitution, and it would take several years to do that, but I think it's worth doing. We actually talked about it at TML because we thought there would be value in that, and it would take several years. But I think that we would be like the most hated body in the county if we were to do that to our general sessions judges, because it would put a burden on them when their dockets are already several months out. So I don't feel like that's going to be a good option. I was really excited to hear that when I got that text that night. But
Yeah, and I don't know if you could limit it.
we
possibly
talked about like
could.
having a specific speed zone where it would only be in that area that we would issue.
And there may be, that's going to require a little bit further research if we could do it for certain streets where we know there's
Like
an
increased
issue.
fines for.
Yeah.
But I don't have a clear answer on that.
Yeah, because, thanks, Chief, for sending regularly the speed report. It's pretty impressive sometimes to see what speed people drive on 30 miles per hour zone. So you just need one,
But yes, it can be done, but there are stipulations that go
Yeah.
with it.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. So what I was following what Rachel brought forth about the tourism grant, I wanted to tell you all that I have been talking to our communications director, Jeff Henschel, and I've talked to David Brown about this. And what I am thinking would be a really good thing for the city to do at this point in time is we have a person dedicated to marketing our parks. And a lot of our parks marketing is related to bringing people to Sumner County and to participate. And so what I think would be a really good move for us at this point is to take that person and let her expand her responsibilities into parks and tourism. I don't know if you know Ms. Maddox. She happens to be here quite frequently, but in my view, very talented, very capable, and pretty passionate and knowledgeable about parks already. In fact, she's going to be a speaker this year at the Parks and Recreation Conference for the state. But as we've been talking about tourism in Sumner County and tourism in Gallatin, see, Goodlettsville started their own tourism department just a few years ago. They felt that was worth that investment. We, of course, have Sumner County Tourism. They do a great job. But when you think about when you go to other states, you don't go to a county, you go to a city. And so I think there's real value in us really starting to think in those terms, because we always say we want people to come here, spend their money, and go home, but we have to drive that. And so when we say, right, isn't that a good thing? So to do that, I think it would be well worth, and I feel like, and I did talk to her about the idea too, I do feel like that there's a great opportunity for synergy between Mr. Henschel and Ms. Maddox, or communications and parks and tourism marketing. But I also think that there is also some backup benefits, because they could help each other accomplish things with the different tasks and skills, and frankly, passions that they each have, and then they could work together. It would also help us have more backup on some of the city maintenance stuff, and then have her have more backup in some of the stuff that she needs to do. Right now, they're kind of sharing equipment, but they're not really sharing programming or projects like they could potentially be. So I think it could be a great thing. I want to see how this body felt about it. There's still logistics to work out, but I think it would be a very positive move.
What do you need from us, Mayor?
I'll figure that out, but rather than, because we will have to go through HR to actually move the position, and I'm thinking that it would just fall under the communications director position. And then logistically, what we would do, because space is so crazy everywhere, I don't know yet. But that would be it at some point.
Great program, great way
I think, just as we've kind of talked about different things about tourism, I started thinking about, even if you go to other states and you're going to somewhere, they may market, I think a lot about Sarasota, Bradenton, because they always market the cities. It's Sarasota County, but people don't know that.
Yeah.
People don't know that, I can't think what county Tampa's even in, but you know your cities, you don't know your counties. And I think Gallatin is getting known as a brand in a lot of ways, but not necessarily in tourism. And so if we have someone who can be that liaison to our chamber, to our historic sites, and to our events that can market those in conjunction with all of the parks and recreation events, because I feel like they're a big attraction already for tourism. And so if you can package that all up together nicely, and probably at some point invest some money in marketing for it on a broader reach scale. Probably some synergy with economic development too. And so I think there's cool opportunities there.
I think it's a great idea, but talking about park, where are we with the plan, the park plan?
I think the latest update Mr. Brown got was 2 weeks. So
2 weeks.
that's the most positive one we have lately. I have not reached out to him this week, so I think I've told y'all I've seen a draft of it. We made some comments and, sent them back with it, and it's going to be good. I feel really great about what it's going to be, so. And also just FYI, we did meet about Clearview a few weeks ago, or I guess it was last week. Last week. Yeah, so I feel like we're in a really good place there. We may be asking for a bit more money, but the consultant worked with us to reduce some cost and get a whole lot done, so that's cool. So I like that smile. So. Okay, was there other business? I did want to mention that Angela in the mayor's office and Mr. Henschel are continuing to work on electronic agendas. At one point, the body was not open to that. I think this body can handle electronic agendas well. We're using them at the Planning Commission. Very comfortable. It's really nice to be able to see things in color and jump around and study things that way. So hopefully we'll get there very soon. Anyone else? All right, any department heads with reports this evening? Anything I have forgotten to bring up that I should? All right, so one more motion.
Can I say
Oh, I'm so sorry. Mr. Fennell had specifically asked to make a comment before we adjourn, so.
I would like, on behalf of my family, to thank everyone for the prayers and the outreaching that my family's received from the injury that my wife had. Gallatin and the city, Hendersonville, Portland, Westmoreland, White House, the county. It's been overwhelming. She's got a long ways to go, but one thing I want to say is thank you to the Gallatin Fire Department and the police department. And it's a pretty scary situation that happened to me, and I had nobody there to help me. And of course, I had surgery, but it was comforting to know that our police department and our fire department, was there within minutes. I mean, very quick, and I couldn't even get on the floor to try to help my wife. But the 3 young men from the fire department jumped right in there and knew what to do, so that was very comforting. Thank y'all. Sorry I got you out of bed, Don.
Well, from when it initially happened, that's what I have heard from your family, is how grateful and impressed you were by the police and fire, so thank you for sharing that piece. But I think I've told you personally, but this community is really good about holding each other up, and you guys experienced that. And we're glad she's getting better, and we'll continue to support her.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
By Councilman George, second by Councilman Hayes. All in favor, please say aye. Ladies and gentlemen, have a lovely evening. Be safe going home. Thank you all.
Well, Sean, y'all